The idea was maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes, we could recap the breakout session, and then they're going to roll right into their panel. So, if that's all right.
Sorry for the rough transition, everybody, but this is back-to-back because we are hoping that this chance to talk as a larger group with some organizers up here as the focus would allow you to get out some of the thoughts that you had during those breakout sessions and maybe pose some of the questions you had for larger group discussion. I sat in a little bit on the communications and tech session and also the volunteer and organizing session. I'm not going to share anything specific because I'm hoping to hear more questions from all of you, so I will just pass the microphone over.
All right. Okay, so I guess I'm presenting for the finance group back there. But we had some good conversations of starting with, Jack had that suggestion of, if you had money, what would you spend it on? And that allowed us to start to break from a bunch of things. And so that we came up with other different ways, whether we spend money on it or not, but it gets us thinking about how do we engage with the community? What do we wish we could do? And how can we find a way to get there? And just pulling a bunch of ideas together. So, but he's got it all written down, so he's the expert on it.
I'm definitely not the expert on it, but I was in the communications side of it, and I would say this group was, did that properly. Activated thinking. I think everybody was very active in trying to pose questions, angles, figure it out, why things work, why other things aren't working, especially thinking about how algorithms work. And it was also posed on how influencers get their followings, like Scott Galloway, and how he really tapped into niche areas that really needed to be tapped into, like the loneliness syndrome for men. And I think those are things that need to be brought in the forefront that can be really good issues that can bring more influence into like a party that's trying to bring attention to things that aren't political third rails.
Hey everyone, I was in the volunteer onboarding group, and many of the discussions we had are similar discussions that we have in New Jersey. The first one being is, how do you train volunteers? We had a great discussion about making sure volunteers know how to talk about our message specific to that state. And then also 4 steps for new volunteers and new leaders within a state party, and making it as easy as them as possible to grow as leaders as well.
There was a lot of commotion when you were being introduced. Can you please briefly tell everyone about New Jersey Forward Party and your role in it?
Sure. So hey everyone, yes, my name's Nate. I'm chair of the New Jersey Forward Party. It's been incredible to sit here and learn from Pennsylvania as well as Maryland. You know, New Jersey, I would describe, has had 3 phases over the past 4 years, 2022 to 2024, where we had our initial start and had a lot of momentum until a bunch of people stepped down at the same time. 2024 to 2025, where we had great momentum and then people stepped down at the same time. And then 2025 to now, where we have momentum, and my goal is to ensure that our infrastructure is permanent and we keep going up. In 2025, we endorsed 9 candidates across the whole state, which was an incredible learning experience. It allowed us to make connections across the state. And the big takeaway we learned from that is, while we endorsed candidates from around the state, we went too fast and did not have the infrastructure to support them as much as we would like to. So 2026, we're focusing all of our efforts on Congressional District 7, which is one of the, is where we had the most, which is, I say about Central Jersey, Morris County, Somerset County, Warren County, and making sure that we have the infrastructure down and our processes down, before going too fast again. So that's where we're at. I also like to add that we have a large young forwardists group as well. We have a group of forwardists at Rutgers University, and our Forwards National High School chair texted me 2 days ago saying, "Hey Nate, we have 12 high schools who are ready to start chapters. We need to tag up." So we have a lot of youth development going on in New Jersey as well.
And about how many people would you say are active in the New Jersey Forward Party at this time?
I would say that we probably have about 10 consistent active leaders, and that if you think about the level, what am I trying to say? The ladder of volunteer engagement, right? You have about 10 people who are in that leaders and organizers band, and then it's kind of ad hoc in terms of the people who kind of come in and out. And one of our biggest challenges we are troubleshooting is how do we get people to move up the ladder of engagement as well.
And am I right that a year or two ago it was basically just you?
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is that we all need to listen to whatever you've been doing for recruitment and volunteer engagement, because dang.
Yeah, Brian McMurray. I was over here at the communication table. Like was already said, we were talking about how we get on social media, different strategies for that. There was also the suggestion that we try out Threads, which will be a new one for me. I hadn't tried before. And some of the difficulties for posting on social media as the organization's like official account, and the difference between that and personal's individual accounts. So maybe I could make the ask today, maybe if all of you made one post today and tagged the Forward Party on social media, that would be our biggest social media day ever. So take a selfie with somebody and just say something, had a great conversation at the convention. That would be awesome. On your social media of preference, we're on all the big ones.
I felt a little sorry for cutting the breakouts short because you were all discussing very actively. So I want you to know, if you're able to stay later tonight, there will be plenty of opportunity for more discussion later, because after the official programming ends at 6, there's another 2 hours where we can still stay in this room and snack and mingle and chat. So there'll be plenty more room for unstructured breakout and discussion later. But for now, we thought this might be a chance for you to take some of the thoughts and questions coming out of your breakouts and pose them to some people involved in 3 different states. But hopefully this will be more of a discussion than just us answering questions. But let's start with what questions and thoughts you have. Would it help if I let a microphone float around in the audience?
Any questions?
So it's a question, I guess, it's an idea with a question or a proposal is, one of the things that I think is a really untapped resource that has come up quite a few times is the youth, right? So they're the most dissatisfied, they're the most innovative, it is the future, and we have these young forwardists. And so I'm wondering in 3 states if anyone has done this or what your ideas are for, I hate to call it like succession planning, or you said the ladder of engagement, but like these college chapters, like how do we make sure that they then graduate and they run something in their local community, because now you're not in college anymore, you're a young adult in your community, and then the issues that these folks become more faced with and concerned with, where it's student loans and it becomes housing affordability and it becomes childcare, and this is really the future, right? So I think we should be doing more, and I'm just curious if anyone has started that process of like capturing these folks who are enthusiastic to become the next leaders.
The first step I would recommend for state parties is connect with the Young Forwardist Committee. I mean, they are incredible. As chair of a forward committee myself, I happily copy a lot of their organizational methods. But the biggest thing that the Young Forwardists do very well is that they give college chapters and high school students autonomy. they're not telling them what to do. They're not telling them what they should believe. You know, Gen Z has a very unique, is facing a very unique set of issues that our country has never felt dealt with before, whether it's growing up with social media or AI completely changing the economy, or for me personally, trying to buy a house right now and seeing that our Congress barely got a housing bill across the finish line. You have to go to where the youth are, and you have to truly give them as much responsibility and as much autonomy as possible.
I don't have an answer of how to recruit the youth, but I do have an idea of why I think it's so important, which is that I think as people get older, if they do become politically engaged, they tend to get immersed in one or the other of the political extremes, and then it is very difficult to get a person to step outside of that, because especially today, people get into filter bubbles, they make Republican or Democrat a part of their identity. And if we can somehow reach people who have not yet made Republican or Democrat a part of their identity, maybe independent or even forward can become a part of their identity. Where's the microphone? Governor Whitman has a question.
I don't have a question so much as to answer the other part of your question. If we get these kids in young and they learn not to have to be associated with one party or the other, they're going to stay engaged adults. I mean, we can't say to them, you have to, they're going to register on their own. We don't have to say to them, you're going to have to vote. They're going to do that. I mean, I don't think we have to worry about so much as we do about getting them in the first place. And the high school is also very important, because that's where they're starting to have these thoughts. They get to college, they're so excited about being in college, and as freshmen there are lots of opportunities to engage them, because you have lots of places to put up the tents and put up the tables to table a lot of events. But it's really great to get them at the high school level, and then because it'll give them something to do. But then you're basically, say, that important point of breaking that feeling that you have to be a Republican or a Democrat. And once they start learning that, they'll start to think for themselves. Once they think for themselves, they'll start to solve problems.
That was good. I wanted to add in one thing. I also don't have a solution for this, but I wanted to put out a problem that we're kind of seeing, which is that we get some of the young folks that come in and they're like, oh, I'm glad that you're here on this issue, and I'm glad you're here on this issue. Wait, you're not there on this issue? And I don't know how to solve that. So if we can figure out a way to solve that, I'd love to put our heads together on that. Like, you've got to check every single box. We're not even going to talk to you, and we don't know how to get over that yet.
So, and then I'll bring the microphone to this young lady here in the middle. One of the things that we were talking about at the candidate ballot access table is like engagement within the community. And so I have like a two-part. I need an answer, and then I want to follow it up. You can come sit down, Rachel. We know that Maryland said that they do events like once a week or very often, which I am amazed about. New Jersey, how often do you do like events throughout the state?
Sure. So the number of events throughout the state, it pretty much depends on how much availability we have and how much our volunteer engagement has influx a lot. So one thing I try to do is a monthly call to get people to come in. We had ways where we had enough people to separate into a communications group and a candidate recruitment group, right? And be able to engage people who come forward for different purposes, right? Some people come in because they want us to support a candidate. Some people come in because for the ranked choice voting, or the open primaries part. So I think that's a part where we are catching up, and with other states, so we can keep all those opportunities open for people to come in.
Thank you. And the reason I asked is because one of the points that we talked about at the candidate ballot access table is meeting people where they're at. And it reminded me, in talking about youth and getting them involved, when I ran for state representative in 2022, I set up at the Shrewsbury Festival, and I ended up getting like a dozen teenagers involved in my campaign because I talked to them at the festival, and I listened to what their, one girl was upset because Roe v. Wade had just been overturned. She just graduated, and she's still actively involved with my campaigns that I'm working on, either my own or ones I'm working with. And so I think obviously colleges, high schools, where we're available to participate and engage with the students, but the going to the festivals and stuff like that, as we talked about at the table, is so good for a candidate to get signatures, to meet with people. But there's a lot of kids who are walking around causing a little ruckus, and if you can pull them away and get their attention with some lollipops or some bouncy balls or something like that, you can engage in conversation, and that's where you can talk about what the Forward Party is, and how important their vote is going to be when they turn 18, and to get involved locally now, and kind of establish that relationship. And I bring that up just because getting the kids involved is crucial, and I saw success with doing it in that kind of platform, and so I just wanted to kind of share that with everybody.
No, I appreciate that. And just to add to that, one of the best connections we've made is with the New Jersey Youth in Government Conference. It's a high school conference where each school or school district sends delegates, and they get to create mock bills and really get that government experience. We had a young Forwardist who hopped on a New Jersey call last year, James Maestro, and he invited us to the conference. That year, I was the only one tabling for 4 hours, and there was a large energy at that table. This year, I could sit back and relax because we had 3 young Forwardists who met us at the previous conference, who took it over. And like I said, when it comes to the youth, the young Forwardists, high schools can organize for high schools better than I can. College students can organize on colleges better than I can. So it's all about giving them the opportunity, the resources, and the autonomy to bring the forward message in those areas.
Am I on? I think it can also be done in a very informal way. I mean, formally, it maybe is writing letters to the editor, which I'm prone to do. But also, I was very surprised recently when the Democratic committee person, who got elected as a Democratic committee person for our precinct, contacted me and said, "I'm really an independent. Can you send me information?" So it can happen, just by people knowing, and I think without proselytizing. I mean, people don't like, to be haranguing them, but talking about what you believe and communicating what you believe. And I think there's a whole lot of people out there that really are hungry for a better way.
If I could respond to that, I think what you're making me think of is just networking in general, right? We have groups out here, fair districts, make donors, voters. Those are 2 examples, and there are many more. Ballot PA, Independent Pennsylvanians, March on Harrisburg to a certain extent. There are lots of organizations like this that if you go to their event, wear your Forward Party t-shirt, talk about Forward Party, let those people know that we are their natural political home for reforms and for being independent, right? And so the more that we are in their heads, when someone involved with their organization wants to run for office and they don't exactly fall into one of 2 buckets, they will think, hey, let me reach out to Forward Party, see if I can, go through them. So like when you're talking about, talking to your local precincts, the people with you politically, that's what these people are, right? Everybody's working on the same kind of movement. We're a big tent, and we got to just let them know that we want to help.
I would toss in that for the people that you already have a relationship with, just remind them to ask their friends. You know, like we go to some of our candidates and we're like, you know, hey, do you know any other candidates that would be interested in joining us? And they're like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. You know, it's not something that's forefront. So I would just say, like, reach out to the people you already have connections with and ask them to make connections for you.
I'll also add that you don't need to necessarily lead with that either. Some of the meetups that I run, one's the guys' night out, where I just am trying to bring guys together to better themselves, create connections amongst each other and support each other. Like we'll even talk about, like, did you make sure you got your prostate exam? Things that should be very supportive to guys. But then in the middle of that, we didn't interject politics, and we start talking about these things, but we didn't lead with it. So we found another angle that really just networks and it's a gap fill. And there's a lot of guys that really need support just as much as how women do it with their women's night out and women's support. I'm trying to start this trend now to try to really bring guys into the fold and making them better, and making everyone around them better.
Sorry, if I could say one more thing. So events, right? When we hold events in the state, I think it's been really helpful when we had something else to focus the event on. So there's some theme, something we're going for, whether it's a special election in a certain area that we're gathering to discuss, or Robert had one recently, went to a TED Talk in the area. Those are great. So if there's like something near you and you think, oh, I'm going to go to this political event, just tell us. We'll put it on our website, encourage people to join you, meet you. You can be the organizer, you're just going. And we'll encourage people to meet you there, send an email to your area and meet you, and you can go to that event as a forward party group and then discuss it after. That is a easy thing to do in my mind, and it could be a great result, right? Just experiencing it with people. And we'd love to see you do it.
Yes, that makes me brings to mind like an actual tangible example of that. Since we're in Pennsylvania and some of us are nearby in Philadelphia, WHYY does this thing called Bridging Divides. I think I attended an event in my community. It was on like social media use and like, you know, its impact on society. Is it bringing us together? Is it driving us apart? But if you check out WHYY, there's a lot more in Philadelphia. And again, if you go and there's an interesting topic, it's very community minded. Perhaps they were very open also to even like, if you have an idea, we'll host one. And they do go out to the burbs, but it's mostly there at the central library. And then again, you're out there, you make connections, you say, hey, I'm also involved in this, or hey, do you want to get a coffee? Or hey, I didn't know that was happening and stuff. So that is something that already exists. And we've talked about other organizations that already exist where our people, quote unquote, may be. So, you know, instead of reinventing the wheel and starting from scratch, there's probably others. I don't know if there's a Pittsburgh public, what is HYY? It's like PBS, I don't know, public broadcasting. So anyways, there could be something like that.
Absolutely. And we'll include it in the newsletter and get some people there. That'd be great.
Sadly, we have to bring this portion to a close, but the good news is we're transitioning to another speaker, so I will hand the microphone over to Robert for that introduction.
Okay. All right. Big hand